Welcome to the Fox Den Podcast, where leaders gather to grow.
Well, greetings again, everyone, and welcome here into the podcast, the Fox Den, where leaders gather to grow. Randy Fox here with you today. As always, we're interested in having a conversation today, but then hopefully continuing down the road and helping you individually or your organization as you look to grow in your leadership individually as well as results collectively. And today's conversation is going to be no different. I've got a great friend that I've known for many years, both in a relationship with him as a superintendent, but also as a NCAA women's basketball official, which is where we met. Greetings to Tim Widiker and welcome to the podcast, buddy.
Thanks, Randy. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to just jump right in with everybody here. And for the viewers and listeners that are out there, Tim's been involved in education for a long time and been a superintendent of schools now where you're located for about a dozen years, I believe, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And so seen a lot of different things, but one thing that I have noticed in working, and in full disclosure, I've had the honor to speak to Tim's team of several hundred people many times. And one thing that's very clear is that you really prioritize the kids. Everything's about the kids. The kids deserve it. I've heard you say that many times. The kids deserve it. So when we're thinking about how we do our work, how we live, and in your case, it's the kids, but for a listener, it might be their customer, it might be their family, whatever it may be, a patient if they're in the healthcare world. But at the end of the day, the kids deserve it. It's all about the kids. Just kind of talk a little bit about how you lead, what you expect from your team, and how practically that plays out in really taking care of the kids.
Yeah, all our decisions are based on doing what's best for kids, and we're aligned from the top down. School board, administration, staff, parents know that. On our marquees out front of our buildings, it says "Students First," and we walk the talk and talk the walk, and we ask people to call us out if they ever think that those aren't aligning. But our district vision is be a district respected by others as a model of excellence in student achievement. And student achievement means a lot, right? It's not just academics. We pride ourselves in offering kids opportunities to do whatever they want to do and become whatever they want to be. We pride ourselves in offering a variety of opportunities. As you get into high school, obviously that expands, but we have just built an amazing career and technical ed facility, advanced manufacturing, robots, high-tech things, commercial kitchen for the culinary arts, state-of-the-art with auto and woods and metals and videography and audio visual, green room, greenhouse, we're super excited about that, and our community really supported that. But that's kind of the example where, as you grow older, obviously those opportunities and the chances to expand out into sampling different areas of passion, and kids really find their niche. And then another, I think, fundamental part of what we do is what we call social emotional learning. Like, the kids need to have their social emotional needs met in order to learn anything, right? That is the foundation, right? And they need to know that we care, and we really focus. One of our key performance indicators is our student climate survey. And one of those questions is, is there at least one adult in, our school that you can go to with a problem, right? And then we expand on that, and we list, on the survey, their names and even a picture, just in case, they like, I know that person, I really like them, but I don't quite remember their name, or, I don't know. That's rare, but that's more for the elementary kids maybe. But yeah, and then they list a bunch, and then we let those staff know this is how the kid, this kid, has a meaningful relationship with you and feels that way. And sometimes the staff don't know that. So it works both ways. And then lastly, well, not lastly, but another key piece, just culture, right? Culture, it is the cornerstone of any successful organization. But, culture is not any one thing or two things or three things, or, it's a lot of, I wouldn't say little things, but it's a lot of things. And people just have to be genuine. They have to build meaningful relationships. You can't fool kids. I mean, we say it all the time. You can't fool them if you're disingenuous. They know if you care. They know if you're passionate about what you're teaching. And again, that shows through our student climate survey. And yeah, I think the last thing maybe to talk about there is our key customers. The kids are who we focus on, but when it comes to, maybe marketing and who's making the decision about coming to our school, we realize that parents are our key customers. They're the ones making decisions where to send their school or to keep sending them here, because now more than ever, open enrollment, their school choice. We also do our Net Promoter Score, a parent survey that we do every year. But that Net Promoter Score is another one of our key performance indicators, because we know how important that is. And we give opportunities for feedback on how we can get better or things we can keep doing well. So those are just a few of my initial thoughts when you asked that question.
Yeah, no, it's great. And what I think is really struck me, and, just for everybody, right? We didn't prepare. I didn't know everything you were going to say. And I think that's what makes this a great experience, right? We're just having a real conversation. And what struck me is, first of all, you're very intentional, right? It's very intentional what you're doing. It isn't happenstance that you have the culture. Everybody understands the alignment around the kids. It noticed that too. It wasn't putting people in a specific lane, right? There was choices, right? You're offering an expansion of programs, and then you're supporting kids. You're meeting their needs emotionally and relationally so that they can be successful. And I just think about any organization, any parent, any leader that is out there, like, this is a recipe for success, right? Are you being intentional in all the little things in your culture? Are you open to feedback from all of your, I'll use a different term, stakeholders, maybe, right? Like, all of the different people that are invested, are you open to that feedback? Are you just trying to put out a product, right? In your world, are you just trying to teach math, right? Are you just trying to get the product out there? But it's more than that, right? You're very concerned about the person. And there's just so many great learnings there, for people, that if organizations really looked at that, because you guys are achieving, you guys do have that excellence, you are getting the numbers, not just academically, but holistically, that are telling you you're doing the right things, you're having the community support. And it doesn't mean that everything isn't perfect. It's not perfect all of the time. But in a world where there's so much divide and so many issues, right? You've got a lot of buy-in from your team, from your parents, from the community, and I think obviously a lot of what you just talked about is a key reason why.
Yeah, no doubt. We keep talking about, or I've mentioned our KPIs twice. But four of them revolve around students, obviously, two with academics, one with connectedness, and one with involvement, which I'll talk about in a minute, then one with parents, and then one with staff. Yeah, the other key piece that we really focus on is, well, I mentioned offering opportunities for kids, but we believe a successful kid is a kid that's involved in something, right? Part of their community, and opportunity to find their niche or their passion. And we work with kids from 4 years old, up to 18, and it's a progression, and their passions change maybe from year to year, but by the time they graduate, our goal is to produce responsible, productive citizens of their community. And the other part, I didn't talk about yet, but is really key, I believe, is staff. Focusing on our staff. In order for our staff to be their best, right, we need to invest in them and pour into them, and so that they can be the best for kids. I said from day one, It's staff, not stuff, which we should be prioritizing and investing in. I know you need buses and buildings and and food service and sidewalks and equipment and all that, but it's people that make a difference. So I really prioritize that as a leader, of investing in people. And again, along those SEL lines, we added assistant principals, so our principals could be academic leaders, and our assistant principals could deal with behaviors more. We added 2 counselors at every school, including our virtual academy. We added a school psych at every school. We added interventionists at every school, academic and behavioral, so that we had that support. You noticed not once, I think, have I mentioned test scores, nor even academics, really.
Yeah.
Those are the result of the process. You do all those other things right, you're going to get that. But yeah, we're an educational system. That is our priority. But education isn't test scores, in our opinion. That's the result if you do everything else right. But
Yeah, I love that. I love that because you're right. When we take care of the people and the people work your processes, the product, and in the business world, it would be the profit, right? Or whatever that it might be. The outcome tends to take, but so many people are so focused, so outcome focused. I mean, we met through refereeing. We've seen a lot of games. We've seen a lot of people play, and my teenage daughter is now playing basketball and volleyball. And when the shot isn't made, right? When something is done wrong, so many times I see kids, and I see it in adults too. I see that frustration of that failure, and they're so focused on, I can't believe I messed up. I can't believe I missed again. And the redirect that we do as a coach, that I know you're talking about as well, is let's get back to the process. Let's get back to the culture. Let's get back to the work that we know produces the good results, and stop focusing on the one miss, and just get back to the things that we know that work. And it, like you said, it's you spent a lot of time today not talking about academics, but that's what drives the good test scores, is that you're creating an environment. My favorite line of what you said today, and I've never heard you say it, is staff, not stuff. That is such a powerful, anybody can use that. Like, where are you investing your time and your resources? And that's going to have a huge impact on the outcomes, the culture, and everything is going to flow from that.
Yeah, and my this is my 12th year. In year 2, I discovered Q12. The Gallup Q12 survey. So we've done it every year, and the first year we just measured it. Like, I don't know where we're at. Oh, here's where we're at now. Let's get to work. And from honest conversations to feedback sessions to really diving into each question and what that means and how we can improve it. But yeah, really, that's our measurement, on how we are doing with investing in our staff and making our staff, feel like, this is an organization they want to work for and are happy to come to work. And engagement, I'm sure you've talked about in other podcasts, is so huge, but that's been a big piece of it, and it's not the measurement. And I talk about assessments. I think the old saying is, weighing a cow more often doesn't make it fatter. And that's
Now, there's a Wisconsin phrase for you right there.
so, and I always say, if we're assessing it, we better be teaching it. And if we're teaching it, we better be assessing it. Well, the same thing with Q12, like, we're assessing it. Now let's make sure that we understand clearly what we're measuring and what we're teaching and what we're focusing on. So that's been a huge part of our culture. Those scores have improved every year, but again, the process is honest conversations, what we call them, and individually and in groups, has been a big needle mover in that regard.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, we have, in just a brief period of time, we've covered a lot of territory here. And I think if I were to summarize it, I think it would be that you have to know what's most important. And you've said it multiple times, the people. So it's all about the kids, but it's all of the people that you're investing in to take care of the kids. And it's very intentional, the actions that you're doing. I did want to circle back real quick before we drop and wrap things up today, you talked about being held accountable for everything's about the kids, the decisions that we make. You talked a little bit about the wideness of the programs that you offer, but in a world, I mean, the economics of our world can be a little crazy sometimes. And in a financial world, families and workplaces, everybody has budgets and everybody's got financial constraints. And there's all this drive for the, like you said, the numbers and the metrics, and we've got to perform. And yet you're having to make decisions every day that stay within those financial constraints, yet are taking care of the kids and investing in the staff. And I guess just kind of as we wrap up, give some thoughts on, obviously there's pressures in those areas and there's not unlimited resources. How do you navigate that, and what advice do you give to people where they're not freaking out about the finances and they're staying focused on their people, that family that they want to take care of, to work that process to get the results they want?
Yeah, finance is a tough one. Everybody has different constraints, and in public education, we certainly have those with revenue limits and what we can assess in local taxes and state aid, and very complex. It's based on enrollment, so it's kind of a catch-22, right? The more kids you get, the more money you get, and then there's certain ratios of staff to teacher or student to teacher, ratios and all that, but yeah, I'm fortunate in my job. I get to kind of focus on leadership, and I leave the day-to-day operations with finance to the business manager. Of course, I have a lot of input on that, but I'm always pushing to, spend the money, and that's, it always works out. We got a huge budget, but yeah, I think the biggest thing is just your point of not focusing on the bottom line. You got to be fiscally responsible, of course, but if you're focused on, your net profit margin or your P&L or whatever, I mean, that's what you're focused on, your key customers, your constituents, your stakeholders, whatever, they're going to pick up on that and they're going to feel devalued. Focus on the people. The bottom line will take care of itself, I think, is the big picture. I don't have any big financial advice that.
No, but that's perfect.
I did want to comment, we again, with staff, our biggest investment, like any organization, is our staff salary and benefits, 80%. So they're the most important, but they're also the most expensive. And with that said, we have a low tolerance, for poor performers. We've done projects where you grade out, because we're a school, A, B, C, D, F, your employees. We've done that, internally. And I'm like, well, there better not be anybody below a C, right? Because, let's just hopefully take that off the table. But yeah, so they can be intentional and mindful about, if they're C's, how can I help improve them? And we want to coach people up. But at some point, I found that people don't have the capacity to reflect and improve, and then that's a determination you eventually may have to make with people. And you got to coach them out then, and transition them onto something else that might not work for them. So those are hard decisions. But again, kids deserve it. These kids have these staff, or these, especially the teachers, once they're in third grade once. We'll give them another 3 or 4 years. Like, no, I mean, kids deserve it. And I'll tell you what we call our rock stars deserve it too. Like, one of the things I had heard a few years back was, A performers, don't like C performers, because, they have high expectations and they frustrate them. And C performers don't like A performers because they intimidate them. Like, right. So we want an organization full of A performers, high performers, and nobody's going to throw a parade. Nobody's probably going to send you a card, or nobody's going to even say thank you for, and they might not even know why that person left. But that's important, really important part of leadership. When I didn't want to confuse your listeners, say, oh, staff, and we all sit around and hold hands and sing Kumbaya, and life is good. It's puppy dogs and rainbows. But no, it's not. When you put, more than two people together, or more than one, put two people or more together, the law of ever-present leadership, exists, and you're going to have some issues, just like a family, right? You love each other and you can support each other, but you're not always going to agree. But some listeners might be familiar with 9-box, which is, where employees fall in terms of values and performance, right? And again, performance is important, value is important, and we want people to be in the upper right hand corner of both and coach them up there. So we use that as kind of our visual for that. But again, back to those staff tough decisions. We support our rock stars and we coach up the people that are maybe low performers and don't align with their values. And if we have to, we coach them out, and it's an exciting opportunity then to get better. Every job opening is a chance to get better. And there's a bunch of things we do to attract and retain our top performers, but that's probably a whole other podcast.
Yeah, it probably is, but that's a really good point to leave on, because you're exactly right. Being intentional about serving your team so that they can serve, in this case, the kids, does mean that you have to have standards and accountability. And I love your A to C thing, because you're right. Talented people will leave a toxic organization and you will be left with the worst. And sometimes it's like, well, I feel so bad for that one person. What about your other 100 or your other 1,000 or your other 10? What about everyone you're trying to serve? And I will summarize it this way. These are my words. Hire slowly and fire quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, and I know that there can be unions and regulations, but at the end of the day, pick the right people and the right chemistry and the right character in the first place. You can train and you can develop people, but you got to have the right people. And I love that you're saying that it's not a nasty thing. It's a healthy thing to say this isn't the right fit. And well, we've covered so many things today, and I'm so appreciative, Tim. If anybody wanted to get in touch with you, what would be the best way for them to circle back if they just wanted to connect with you in any way?
Yeah, probably my email would be the best. twidiker@gmail.com. TWIDIKER@gmail.com.
Yeah, perfect. Well, I want to thank you for being with us today, and thank you, listeners, for joining in to another episode where we're always going to have an in-depth conversation. And hopefully that it's not just today, but if we in any way can help you with your leadership development and with your team, you can always find me at foxpoint.net. And until we meet again, always remember that the world is waiting for you. Have a great day, everybody.
Visit us at foxpoint.net and StephenAllenFox.com.